breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Good morning from the welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt. He does such an excellent job over at the Prop Queen website with Ariel Epstein. Also, Border to Border, that's a radio show out there in ESPN Radio in Richmond, and we're going to be chatting with him about what he's been noticing on the prop front here in the first 2+ months of the season. Additionally, we're going to be chatting with him about what he's taking a look at in these games for Wednesday, what have been some of the outliers and some of the adjustments that he's been making throughout the season, and so much more. And in the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, there's name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions, but we did have a lot that went down in baseball on Tuesday. We're going to recap it all, and it's all brought to you by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they make sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 in leap years, 366 days out of the year, as they make sure that everything is accessible. You are able to earn cashback rewards when you use Edge Boost, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, GREG. That gets you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Tuesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Colorado Rockies won back-to-back road games. They were 3-28 on the road to begin the season. Now they're 5-28 on the road. 3-2, they're able to take it to the Miami Marlins. And for the Marlins in this stretch where they lost both games to the Colorado Rockies, they actually got up by multiple runs in both of these games. As for Colorado, Chase Dollander not long for this game. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 3 innings, but the bullpen from there held it down as you had Jimmy Harrigan, Victor Vodnik combined for 3 scoreless innings, Juan Mejia 2 scoreless innings, and Seth Alverson, he closes things out in the 9th inning. Hunter Goodman now has 3 home runs in the series, by the way. He gets his 10th of the campaign. That comes off of Anthony Bender, who came out of the bullpen, gave up that home run in his inning work. Calvin Fauché, Tyler Phillips, both led in a scoreless inning, and for Sandy Alcantara, one of his best starts of the year. Allows 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, but not enough here as the offense did not do their part. And the Pittsburgh Pirates offense continues to not do their part as well. 3-0. They lose to the Houston Astros, and this Pirates team has been a pretty solid under team this far this season. They now have 24 overs, 33 unders, and a push in. For Houston, you had Lance McCullers Jr. on it in this one. 6 scoreless innings. Sean Dubin, Brian Abreu, Josh Hader all lend a scoreless inning. And for Pittsburgh, Paul Skeens gives up 1 run in 8 innings, and he gets a loss. Poor guy. He did give up a solo home run in this one. Going deep off of him, Christian Walker, 8th home run season. Then Isaac Paredes off of Dennis Santana. It's 12th of the campaign. Santana gives up 2 runs in a third of an inning before Kyle Nicholas gets a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but can't help but feel for Paul Skeens on that one. He did his part, and the rest of the team, they did not do their part. And doing their part, the Chicago Cubs, they do a nice job getting the job done against the Washington Nationals. This was 8-3 going into the bottom of the 9th inning as Michael Busch was able to go deep off of Zach Brzezinski, 9th home run season, and Trevor Williams just did not have it in this one. 5 runs in 4 1/3 innings. Andrew Chafin gives up 2 runs. He does not get an out of the bullpen, and then Cole Henry, pair of outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Eduardo Salazar and Jackson Rutledge, scoreless innings, and Brzezinski gives up that home run. It is 2 innings of work. Meanwhile, for the Chicago Cubs, they got a pretty solid start out of Caleb Horton. He said who to 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Caleb Theobar 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Genesis Cabrera a scoreless inning, and then Ryan Presley, he was able to come in and he held it down in the 9th inning. If you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, overall for the season, it has been a very much an underwhelming season. This is still with a few games from Tuesday pending, but the under rate right around about 53.3%. 555 unders, 398 overs. Meanwhile, moneyline favorites, they've been hitting at a rate of about 58.1%, 514 and 370 on the money line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now. That's what we all got on Tuesday. Now coming up next, how about if we talk with our good friend Matt Josephs, aka Major Matt, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here, lovely Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Mid-Major Matt aboard. He does a tremendous job taking a look at this great game of baseball. He's over there with Ariel Epstein on the Prop Queen website. Additionally, he does a great job with the show Border over on ESPN Radio in Richmond. You're able to follow him on Twitter /X at Mid-Major Matt. And as you can tell from the name, also does a great job on the college football and the college basketball front as well. And always great to get you aboard, Matt. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Always great to have you aboard, Matt. And Matt, it has been an interesting start to the season. Now we are past Memorial Day, so now we're first at, shall we say, first landmarker of the season where we can decipher what's for real and what's for fake. And what has been one of the biggest adjustments that you've had to make thus far this season that maybe was a little bit unexpected coming in?
I mean, obviously you're making the adjustments now with regards to the weather. We haven't had a lot of hot days, and now we're starting to get the hot days and the wind blowing out. So that's certainly going to account for a lot more runs. You know, as we get hot in Sacramento, we're going to see even more runs than we already have in Sacramento. But, it's all about getting the data points and all about now that we, as you said, it's about 60 games or so far this season. And so you're starting to figure out, well, this team can't hit lefties. This team is hitting righties. Certain pitchers are better in the middle of the season. We're talking in early June. That means in theory, Kyle Schwarber is going to start hitting even better than he already hits. So it's all about kind of trying to figure out what you've got in terms of the early data points so far this season.
Yep, no question about it. And it has been interesting from a strikeout prop sort of perspective as well, because a lot of the teams that we were expecting to be high strikeout teams haven't been so much. And then there's a team like the Seattle Mariners where they've been a little bit up, down all around this season.
Yeah, Seattle's definitely one of those teams that every year there's one team. Last year it was the Cubs. This year it is Seattle. That shows really the K-prop market is a very hot and cold market. Like I'm looking over my Seattle spreadsheet here, and a lot of the numbers against righties trend more towards the under, but there are certain stretches, like I'm looking at a stretch now where they had 6 of 9 overs. That came before a stretch where they had about 5 of 7 unders. And so, kind of charting this as it is, it really shows that these teams are hot and cold when it comes to contact. I'll say the Phillies are like that too. The Phillies are a team that traditionally has had some issues at times with contact, but then there's other times where they are great when it goes to the under, mostly because they're knocking pitchers out so early. So it's one of those things where we may see a team do really well and then all of a sudden flip over. It's because it's so contagious, it feels like, contact and then not having contact.
Yeah, no question about it. And it has been so hot and cold. And how much, when it comes to just basing the props, do you take a look at recent form? Because I do think that it is so interesting the way that some of these teams get hot and cold, like the Brewers entering into Tuesday being on an 8-game win streak. That's another one of those teams that it feels like they've been all over the place with regards to their hitting too.
Yeah, and they're another team, it's a perfect scenario here. They're pretty close to 500 so far this season. 31 overs, 29 unders. They're 10-10 versus left-handed starting pitchers. They just went through a series in Philadelphia where Jesus Luzardo and Ranger Suarez had 6 strikeouts combined. And then Logan Allen on May 13th had 6 strikeouts himself. So it's one of those things where part of it is luck. I mean, look, most likely you would consider taking an over with Jesus Luzardo. That's the game, of course, he gave up 12 runs and 12 hits, ruining his Cy Young campaign. But the numbers before them would have told you, yes, this is a team that you want to have K-prop overs with against lefties. So some of it is luck. Some of it is how good a pitcher does. But, it's one of those things where when you start thinking something's consistent, it turns the other way.
Yeah, it's been so interesting to say the least. And we've had ourselves a lot of teams that have been very streaky this year. And I'm not sure if you've noticed that, but I've noticed with the Minnesota Twins when they went on their double-digit win streak. Obviously, I'm talking about the Milwaukee Brewers right now. The LA Angels had an 8-game win streak. It feels like there have been a lot of random teams that have just gotten super hot and super cold.
It is funny because the A's had that very long losing streak earlier this season. And it's pretty funny how the Rockies continue to cap out at 8 for their longest losing streak of the season. They have not had one. I think they've had 4 separate 8-game losing streaks or 3 separate 8-game losing streaks. Yeah, I mean, this is just what happens when you have a 162-game season. Every team is capable of looking like the best team in baseball. And almost every team, especially the Rockies, are capable of looking like the worst team in baseball. And that makes it such a grind when it comes to betting on baseball. And the thing that I always like to impress upon people, and those who follow me on Twitter notice, days off are huge. Like, there's times where like a Monday, like this past Monday, there was very few games. There was like 6 or 7 games. And I'm like, you know what? I don't love anything. I'm taking the day off. I'm kicking my feet up. I'm getting away from the grind of betting on baseball because it is a grind. There's so many numbers. There's so many markets. For somebody like you, it's a little easier because you do just the totals and the sides. But for someone like me, there's the hits market. There's the hits allowed, walks, strikeouts, innings, earned runs allowed, everything like that. And so there's just times where I say, you know what, every once in a while, just take a day off, get away from baseball and clear your mind a little bit. And you'll find it helps in the long run.
Oh, no doubt about it. Just being able to make sure that you're able to get yourself a little bit of rest and relaxation, I think, is big for me. Going on some nice date nights, what have you, that's able to recharge the batteries for myself. So I think that that's great advice. There's Matt Josephs, who does great work over at the Prop Queen website, along with ESPN Radio in Richmond, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I do think that it is really interesting because you mentioned so many of those markets. Have there been a few that you've been playing a little bit more this year than you have in past years? Because I've been noticing, like, I had Adam Rosenberg, who does a great job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's looking at like the double plays market at this point. Every single year, there's more and more with regards to baseball in terms of the menu. I know that there's more ways to be able to isolate baseball than ever before. Has there been anything that's really been added into your arsenal this year?
I would say the outs market. I dabbled in the outs market, but I feel like I'm playing that the most because you're seeing certain teams like the Houston Astros. And look, it's funny because like you'll say certain numbers or I'll say certain numbers and people be like, well, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. But like if you look at the Houston Astros this year and the amount of pitchers that have gone 6 innings or more against Houston this season, it's pretty incredible. I mean, you look at the last 5 starting pitchers, go back to the last 8 starting pitchers, Hancock, Wu, and Castillo in a series against the Mariners all went 6 innings. Then JP Sears went 3 1/3, but then Luis Severino went 6. Boz went 5 2/3. Pepio went 6 2/3. Littell threw a complete game, and Taj Bradley had 7 innings. So, like, if you could find a team that seemingly just, doesn't have a lot of plate discipline, and you start taking a look at their outs overs, it's something that, once again, because I actually chart these things, I'm able to notice this sort of thing because, you can go back and look at like a week or so, and you can notice little trends. But, when you go back a month and when you go back the whole season, you notice certain things. And so now I'm looking more and more at the outs over props against the Houston Astros because of that. You look on the other end. I mean, for the beginning of the season, the Dodgers were destroying so much starting pitching that nobody was getting to 6 innings. Now you're starting to see a little bit more. It's still not great, but like you're seeing guys going 6 innings, especially from the left side. You look at David Peterson, went 7 2/3. You look at Ryan Yarbrough in that series against the Yankees. He went 6 innings. So, you notice these sort of things because you chart these sort of things. The outs market has some value. And also, if we start seeing games with rain issues or potentially rain in the middle of the game, you could take some outs unders when the books offer props that are just too high. So I think the outs market is something that really is something you could take advantage of if you do the work for it.
And so glad that you mentioned that as well. Just being able to gauge whether or not a game is going to have a rain delay in there or not can be able to profit for you so much. And something that I've done that has worked out so well for me, when you get these blowouts and you get these position players that pitch, just lay the run line of whoever's batting against that position player and taking the over live. That has worked out really well for myself. So if you're able to pick up on those little things, if you're watching these games as they're going along, you're able to find some great value. So I'm so glad that you said that, and I'm so glad that we've got ourselves such a great slate of baseball for this Wednesday. And I want to ask you about this game because Mackenzie Gore has obviously been a high strikeout guy. His strikeouts per 9 rate right now leads the National League, but he goes up against the Cubs offense that right now leads the big leagues in terms of runs per game, going up against Matthew Boyd. How do you look at this sort of a game with the Nationals being a bit of a plus 110, plus 115 underdog, total of 8.5, and obviously Mackenzie Gore is going to have a pretty high strikeout total?
Yeah, his strikeout number is going to be pretty high. The thing that's interesting for the Cubs is so far this season, they're averaging less than 4 strikeouts per game against left-handed starting pitchers. It's 3.86, which is ironic because last year they averaged 5.31 strikeouts against left-handed starting pitchers. And the interesting thing when you look at the numbers, there's a lot of low numbers. But when you look, a guy like Jose Quintana had 6 early last month, a month ago. You look at a guy like Lodolo, he had 6 strikeouts. And then when they played in Wrigley, he had 5 strikeouts. And Andrew Abbott had 8 strikeouts. So I'm going to think that maybe this number is going to be about 5.5, 6.5. And it also depends on the juice. If people notice, there's certain juice numbers I will never take. Look, I'm not laying minus 160 unless I'm 100% sure of it. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'd rather pass up on a prop that I know is probably going to win and lay minus 160, minus 170. I'd rather go with a plus prop that I think may win and just kind of sprinkle on it. But Gore this season has faced a lot of high strikeout teams. You look at some of the ones that he's recently faced: Seattle, San Francisco, Baltimore. Faced Baltimore twice. Baltimore is terrible against left-handed starting pitchers. The teams that have kind of had somewhat of a low strikeout number, he had 7 against the Dodgers at home. The Dodgers are hot and cold when it comes to that number. The Phillies have been somewhat hot and cold. He had 6 in Philadelphia and 13 in that opening day game. So Gore's kind of faced a lot of teams who strike out a lot. So I think that helps inflate his numbers. This will be a fascinating number. If it's too high, I'm looking at the under. If it's too low, I might actually look at the over in this sort of situation.
Yep, I think that's so well said, and this is a Chicago Cubs team that they have very much been firing all cylinders all season long, and I think that this is another very fascinating game as we're going to get Kumar Rocker back on the bump for the Texas Rangers going against the Rays and Shane Baz, and the Rangers are just such an intriguing team because at some point, I think these guys are going to hit. At some point, I think that there's going to be positivity, but there's been none of that thus far this season for that lineup. And for Kumar Rocker, failed to get out of the 4th inning in 3 out of his first 5 starts of the year. Now he's coming off the injured list. I want to get your take here because I think that there might be a lot of value on this game just with the way that the Rangers have been very inept, to say the least.
Yeah, and the thing you always want to look at with guys coming off of the injured list is how many starts did they have rehab-wise? How long were those starts rehab-wise? I thought the books put a horrendous number out on Bryce Miller a couple of nights ago. They had his number at 4.5 strikeouts, and he had 0 rehab starts. And before the game, the manager came out and said 70 to 75 pitches. And sometimes you just got to do a little bit of research. When you look at Rocker, he's had a couple of rehab outings. He started, but he didn't last very long. The first one was 3 innings. The second one was 4 innings. And he pitched really well in those things. But of course, pitching in the minors and pitching in the majors are two completely different things. The interesting K-prop number here will be Baz's, because Baz has had 3 straight really low efforts. He had 3 against the Astros, he had 4 against the Blue Jays, and he had 2 in Miami against the Marlins. Then he had 6 in Toronto. So this is a guy who we certainly know can strike a lot of guys out. He's taken advantage of some of the higher strikeout matchups. He had 10 against Pittsburgh. He had 6 against the Angels. He had 11 against the Red Sox. And the Rangers right now are a strikeout machine. They are a team that is heavily skewing to the K-prop over. You look, they had a stretch of 6 straight, then they had 1 under, and then they had another 6 straight over. So this is a team that you definitely want to pound the over, especially against left-handers. I know it's a righty in this situation. So once again, this is going to be an interesting number. If it's too low, I'm looking at Baz's over. If it's too high, I'm just going to pass because Baz has shown that he just doesn't always get a ton of strikeouts.
Yeah, with Baz, he's been inconsistent all season long. First month or so of the season was very good. Then May hit, other than that last start against the Houston Astros. And I will say that Blue Jay start as well has been very shaky, to say the least, as Matt Joseph, a.k.a. Major Matt, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I've asked you this before, and I'm going to ask you this once again, as right now, we've got a Colorado Rockies team that entered into Tuesday 10-50 on the season. And have you found any good ways to be able to fade this team? Because all their numbers are going up to the moon. And, well, they've been profitable if you've been laying them. Because unless you're laying minus $7 with the home team at home, you've been able to crank out a profit because the Rockies entered into Tuesday 4-28 on the road. But just, is there any way that you have found that is rock solid in terms of fading the Rockies? Or are they just a team that you want no part of whatsoever?
Yeah, it's really interesting because they are an over machine in strikeout props. Now, granted, the last 4 nights have actually gone under. Now, granted, look, here's the thing. The books are juicing up the numbers. They went under 6.5 3 of those times. They went under 7.5 another time. So Senga had 7 when the under was 7.5. So he got a lot of strikeouts, but the number was 7.5. So I mean, my guy is pitching on Wednesday, Cal Quantrill, Cal Quantrill's pitching. And so, if his number's really low, Cal Quantrill's actually struck out some guys this season. And so, I wonder what they're going to do with a guy like Cal Quantrill, who at times just doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but he's coming off of having 7 at home against the Giants. He had 6 at home against the Rays. He had 6 at home against the Dodgers. Man, if they hang a 3.5 here, I think I have to go over on Cal Quantrill's strikeouts against a team like this. He's been really good at home. He's no longer the outs over, I thought. It feels feels like this Marlins team is capping him at 5 innings lately. Last month, he only went 5 innings 3 times. The other times he went 4 1/3 and 3 1/3. So like when he used to be the innings eater, now they kind of just say like, look, you're good. We want 5 innings from you. We'll go to the bullpen. So man, if they hang the strikeout number low enough here for my guy, Cal Quantrill, I think I have to do it at home. It's got to be a low number though. It's got to be like 3.5. I don't know if I trust him to go 4.5 here. It is a getaway day. It is a very early start time. So you're going to have some probably bench guys in the lineup for Colorado. Dying to see what the number here because I think Quantrill can go over a low strikeout total. I think he could pitch pretty well. You know, if the right Cal Quantrill shows up, I think he could pitch pretty well. Colorado's offense is getting a little bit better as of late. This could be like a first 5 over. You know, Kyle Freeland is not necessarily a great pitcher either. We might see a Marlins team that's decent against lefties score some runs. So I might look at a first 5 over here. I might look at a Cal Quantrill strikeout prop over here. I might also look at a Kyle Freeland outs over. He goes longer outside of Coors Field, and sometimes they just have him go longer because they need him to go longer because the previous pitchers haven't gone very long. You look at Kyle Freeland outside of Coors Field, he threw 6 innings at the Mets. He threw 6 innings at the Rangers. So if this is a low number in terms of his outs, I might go that direction as well.
Yep, and I do think that with this Miami Marlins lineup, there's a lot of inconsistency with them as well. Not necessarily a lot of power outside of Kyle Stowers, and man, for Kyle Freeland, he's doing for a little bit of positivity. He doesn't walk a lot of guys, but he's just been getting pinged around like a piñata. So that's not been great to say the least. And is there anything else on the card that you're going to be taking a look at and betting on Wednesday?
I'll be looking at the number for Zebby Matthews. I think Zebby Matthews is starting to round into form here. 7 strikeouts against Seattle, 9 against the Royals. 9 against the Royals is really good. The Royals aren't as good as they have been in the past in terms of contact, at least by K-prop numbers, but they're still very good. Going to pitch in Sacramento against the A's. Of course, you want to check the weather, make sure it's not really hot, wind blowing out, all that sort of things. You know, we're seeing the starting pitchers in Sacramento not go as long as they used to because of the fact that, you know, people are getting beat up, although the, you know, lineup hasn't been as good as of late. You know, we saw Joe Ryan at 4 strikeouts in 5 innings in Sacramento. So I'll be interested to see what kind of numbers they hang for Zebby, who's been really good lately. The Athletics are striking out a little bit more. I'm looking at Mick Abel. Second start in the major leagues. He looked really good against the Pirates. This is a whole different challenge here against the Toronto Blue Jays team that makes a ton of contact. Toronto is one of those teams that you're potentially looking at unders. 4.36 strikeouts per game against right-handed starting pitchers. They also have never seen Mick Abel before, so I want to see if he can build off of that start against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then, of course, Miles Mikolas. It's so funny. We're getting Miles Mikolas, Kyle Freeland, and Cal Quantrill. We just needed like Patrick Corbin to also pitch on this day, but like Mikolas has been decent so far this season. Now, look, I'm not running out and saying, oh, he's going to win games, but he's 4-2 with a 3.9 ERA. He's striking out of people. At least he's going over because he's constantly getting 3.5. He had 3.5 against the Royals. He had 4. He had 3.5 against Arizona. He had 4. He had 3.5 against the Nationals. He went 5. So I'll be interested to see what his number is in this sort of situation, pitching at home where he's slightly better against a Royals team who makes a lot of contact and obviously has already seen him so far this season. So I'll be looking to take advantage of some sort of Miles Mikolas prop depending upon what the numbers are.
Yep, with Miles Mikolas, he's been a really interesting pitcher in that his strikeout numbers are way, way down. He's actually walking more guys than normal, but he's just holding everything in the yard. I have no idea how he's doing it right now. And for Noah Cameron, been a nice start to his MLB career, but I don't know about you, but I think that he's doing for quite a bit of regression, but a man that is always progressing, a man that is always doing an amazing job. That'd be you, Matt. I know you're doing great work on so many different fronts, so let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, I'm in Major Matt on Twitter. Every day I post my plays. They're tracked on the Action Network, so the record you see is the correct record. I'm not one of those people who you can say is scamming the followers, so we have our good times, we have our bad times, but we're currently up slightly so far on the season. And, you know, look, I noticed that Greg gets a lot of questions about first threes, first fives, player props, things like that. I'm always willing to help out because we all have the same goal. We all want to beat the books. And I'm doing stuff with Ariel Epstein. We do videos, we do podcasts and things like that. And certainly looking forward to college football. The win total work will start soon. I've got a winning record for four of the last 5 years in win totals documented on Twitter. So looking forward to just providing information because that's all we can really do, Greg, is we can provide as much information and try and lead people and hope that everything we predict goes as well as we planned.
Yep, absolutely. And I know that Matt, he does certainly put in the work and he gets a lot of results. Nobody gets the results 100% of the time, but Matt, he's done a rock solid job all season long, and every single time he joins me lends such great insight. So a big thanks Matt, for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Matt Joseph, aka Mid-Major Matt. He does such an excellent job taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So big thanks to Matt for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Now, first two games are ironically off the board, as we might have some pitchings, flipperoonies there, but most of the other games, they should be all good to go. So let's get started with 951, 952 on the card. It is the Colorado Rockies on the road against the Miami Marlins. Cal Quantrill goes for the Fish. Right now, the board reads undecided for the Rockies, and that's why this game is off the board, but it should be Kyle Freeland. If it's not Kyle Freeland, don't bet the Colorado Rockies. I'm just going to call it what it is. They entered into yesterday 4-28 on the road. If you laid -$7 on the money line with the home team against the Colorado Rockies, you're breaking even. I set my money line price at a -243 with Quantrill Company. I would be willing to go up to a -125 on that run line. I did set my total at 7.8, 7.5 or less to the over, 8 or higher to the under. Now, if it's not Freeland, I'd probably be willing to go up to an 8 because Kyle Freeland is probably a little bit of an upgrade in comparison to anything else that the Colorado Rockies have to offer, because man, they don't have much in the minor league system. They don't have anything at the big league system. It's a wet match in a dark cave. For Kyle Freeland, 0-8 record, 5.72 ERA. He's pitched a little bit better than this. 7 strikeouts and 2 walks per 9 innings. And if you take a look at the home and road splits, he has been a little bit better when he's been on the road. Most of these Colorado Rockies pitchers have been able to give you a little bit of a better effort. 4.29 road ERA. He is giving up about a home run per 9 innings on the road, but he really doesn't walk a lot of guys, so that's a bit of a positive for the Miami Marlins. This is not necessarily a team that's been the Mona Lisa Vitos of hitting themselves. You've been able to have Matt Mervis give you 7 home runs, but they had to send him down to the minor league level because he just could not give you any average whatsoever. Xavier Edwards is back off the injured list. He's been able to do a nice job moving the line. Kyle Stowers, both hitting above a 275 entering into yesterday. And Stowers, 10 home runs, north of a 350 on base. He has been pretty solid for the team. You're getting Jesus Sanchez going. He's been able to hit about a 270. You've got Dave Myers off the injured list, hitting above a 300. And here's the real issue for the Colorado Rockies. Right now, they're averaging 2.4 runs per game away from home. You've had Hunter Goodman actually be able to supply you with 7 home runs away from home this season. And Orlando Arcia was able to hit a home run in one of his first games with the Colorado Rockies. You're looking at Thairo Estrada to help you out, but when Orlando Arcia and Thairo Estrada are supposed to be the saviors of your team, that tells you where your team is at. Jordan Beck has been able to give you 8 home runs this season, but Brenton Doyle, Mickey Moniak, Ryan McMahon, these are all guys overall hitting below a 220, and then on the road, they go below the mid-dose line of 200. This entire team on the road is hitting below the mid-dose line of a 200. For the Rockies, it's actually not the world's worst bullpen, as Zach Ognos has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but now he's on the bereavement list, so that doesn't help. Jake Bird has been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA along Jimmy Erget. Victor Vodnik is coming off the injured list, but yeah, it's rough, and you've got a Miami Marlins team that they are a bottom 6 team in the big leagues with regards to their own bullpen ERA. Ronnie Enriquez, Anthony Bender, these guys have been able to supply you with a sub-3 ERA, and Enriquez is able to give you a little bit of length as well. Calvin Fauché has been rough for the team. Jesus Sunoco, you really don't have a lot of faith there, but for this Miami Marlins team, they should be able to take it to the good friends over there with the Colorado Rockies. And I will say for Cal Quantrill, it's been a rough season for him, to say the least, but at the very least, he's been able to give you some good starts recently. We'll see if he stays in the rotation after Erie Perez comes back, but you know what? He had an immaculate inning in a start a few starts ago. He's right now posting up an ERA that's hovering right around about a 5.84. He only gets about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's cutting down on giving up the deep ball. If you take a look at what he's done over his last 5 starts, 3 earned runs or fewer allowed in every one of them, albeit he has won 5 innings or less, but he's also gotten 6+ strikeouts in 3 of his last 5. So I'm willing to go up to minus 242 on the Marlins money line, up to a minus 125 with that run line. Need at least plus 244 to take a shot on the Rockies, which won't happen, and then 7.5 or less in on the over, 8 or higher the under. 953, 954 on the card. The Brewers are on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati, who's on to Andrew Abbott getting the start for them. Brewers are undecided on their pitcher, which is why this game is off the board. Now, Quinn Priester looks like he's going to get the start, and if that's the case, I set the Reds at a minus 149, would be willing to go up to a minus 148 on that money line. For the Brewers, we need at least a plus 150 there, and set a high total, 9.6, 9.5 or less, and on the over 10 or higher to the under. Andrew Abbott has been absolutely amazing for the Cincinnati Reds. I do have a feeling that we're going to get a bit of regression, and it's going to start to heat up out there in Cincinnati. So Great American Small Park is going to be living up to their name. Now, I will say, man, for Andrew Abbott, he has allowed 2 earned runs over his last 5 starts, and overall, he's posting up a 151 ERA. Feeling he depends more than double that, though. He is giving up 3.5 walks per 9 innings. Strikeout stuff has been very good. He's been able to give you 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, and for Priester, I do have my question marks with him, mainly because of the walks. He's not going to be getting you a whole bunch of swings and misses, only about 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4 walks per 9 innings, 409 ERA, 472 fielding dependent, but has held down the fort. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in each of his last 5 appearances. There was one game where they had a opener for him, but I mean, overall, he's been able to do a pretty solid job there. But again, I do think that this is going to be a ballpark that is going to be yielding a lot more runs during the summertime. And for the Cincinnati Reds, it's been a little bit of a hit or miss lineup, but I do think that these guys are starting to come to their own. You've got obviously Elly De La Cruz, who's able to do a nice job pounding a double-figure amount of homers, one of the best base stealers that you're going to find in all of baseball. And then TJ Friedel, Kevin Lux, both of these guys north of a 375 on base. You've been able to get a little bit more recently out of Will Benson, 5 home runs in his first 64 at-bats after he was banged up to begin the season. Need more out of Jake Fraley, Matt McClain, these guys hitting below the below side 200. Not so great to say the least. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, you got a quartet of different guys that are able to give you stolen bases, so these guys always find a way to be able to get into scoring position, as you got that in Bryce Rang, Jackson Trio, Christian Yelich, and Sal Frelick. And all of a sudden, Christian Yelich, how about him up to 13 home runs? I don't know where this has come from, but for Christian Yelich over the last 3 or so weeks, he's on this nice power surge, 3 home runs in his last 4 games entering into yesterday, so that's big, and I don't know if we're ever going to see peak Christian Yelich again, but you know what? We're getting there. Bryce Terang, he's been able to give you about a 350 on base. William Contreras, Sal Frelick, Rhys Hoskins, all these guys between about a 355 to a 360 on base. Hoskins is up to 9 home runs, so that power ball is starting to get going for him. And for the Brewers, what's really been the issue for this team has actually been the bullpen this season, as Yoel Payamps, Elvis Peguero were really good for them this season. Both of these guys were flopperoonies, and I believe that Elvis Peguero is not even with the team right now. Yoel Payamps is currently at the minor league level, so that's not great. You have been able to get really good innings, though, out of Abner Uribe. He's a little bit of a do-it-all sort of guy that's able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Nick Mears has been posting up a sub-3 ERA. Obviously, Trevor McGill in the back end has been solid, and for the Reds, it's been a little bit suspect with regards to some of the long guys. Graham Ashcraft has been a load of Ashcraft. Recently, he has seen massive regression, but still have quite a few guys in that bullpen that can give you some good innings. Taylor Rogers, Lyon Richardson, Brent Suter, these are all guys giving you a sub-3 ERA. Tony Santillan has been pretty rock solid out there as well. So I did set this money line at a minus 148 with regards to the Reds, or so willing to lay up to a minus 148 with the Reds, plus 150 or higher. Looked at the Brewers, and then 9.5 or less, like the over 10 or higher, the under 955, 956 on the betting board. The Washington Nationals play the Chicago Cubs. Matthew Boyd goes for the Cubs, and Mackenzie Gore hopes to not get gored by the Cubs. As for the Nationals, you're going to be finding them as a home underdog here of between plus 112 to plus 118. Meanwhile, between minus 123 to minus 135, that number on the Cubs. 8.5 is the total, over and under, both at minus 110. And with regards to the Washington Nationals, I set them at a minus 101. I like Mackenzie Gore here on the money line, as Mackenzie Gore, 316 ERA, but a 265 fielding dependent, 13.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up right around 2.8 walks per 9 innings. He hasn't really allowed the deep ball this season. He has been tremendous. I believe that he's pitching much better than that ERA would indicate. Now you have to play big bucks, no whammies on the bullpen, because the Washington Nationals bullpen is dead last in the National League in terms of ERA, hovering right around about a 6. You've had a lot of mixing and matching. They had to let go of Lucas Sims because he was just absolutely awful. You've had Jose Ferrer post up north of 5 ERA. Now you've got Kyle Finnegan, Andrew Chafin, Cole Henry, these guys being able to give you a sub 3 ERA, but I mean, Jackson Rutledge is starting to see regression with a 5 ERA, so that's been a little bit rough. But for the Washington Nationals, in the month of May, they were actually a top 7 team in the big leagues with regards to runs per game. James Wood has been a big reason why, 16 bombs, 385 on base. Now, you've been able to get power out of Josh Bell and Dylan Cruz, but both of these guys hitting below the middle sign of 200, both below 285 on base. You need a little bit more there, but CJ Abrams, 345 on base with 8 home runs. Luis Garcia is starting to move the line. You've had some good at-bats out of Keibert Ruiz to get on base, give you about a 270 average, and then for the Chicago Cubs, this has been the number 1 team in all of baseball in terms of run production. I do seem to think that there's going to be a little bit of regression with these guys, though. Nico Horner has been able to do a nice job getting on base with a 300 average, and that's been a big reason why these home runs have not been just solo shots, but have been 2-run and 3-run shots. Dansby Swanson, Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki, Pete Crow-Armstrong, all supplying at least 11 home runs this season. Crow-Armstrong sitting at 280. How about Kyle Tucker give you a 394 on base? And Crow-Armstrong and Tucker have a combined 35 stolen bases, so they're not just hitting for power, but they're moving the line, they're getting on base, and they're swiping bags. Carson Kelly, 9 bombs at his first 114 at-bats, nearly a 400 base. Michael Busch has been able to give you about a 365 on base. That's been supreme. And for the Cubs, it's interesting what we've seen out of the bullpen. Daniel Palencia, along Drew Pomeranz, have been absolutely amazing in this bullpen. Both a sub-2 ERA. This has come from absolutely nowhere whatsoever. Brad Keller is giving you a sub-2.25 ERA. You do have a few guys that have been hot and cold. Ryan Brazier has been injured all season long. Ryan Presley has been a complete disaster for the team. And Porter Hodge, he has seen massive regression as well. But that said, I do think that for Mackenzie Gore, he goes out there, gives you good performance. And for Matthew Boyd, I think he's doing for a little bit of regression. 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, which has been rock solid. He has a fielding dependent of a 3.45 compared to a 3.08 ERA, and he's giving up a little bit north of a home run per 9 innings, and his ERA does go up to a 3.73 on the road. So I did set my total at 8.1. I think both pitchers give you a good performance. I like the under, and I do like the Nationals on the money line. 9.57, 9.58 on the card. You've got the Atlanta Braves playing OCers and the Diamondbacks. Merrill Kelly is on the bump for the Snakes. Chris Sale is on the bump for the Bravos. Bravos are between minus 167 and minus 180 favorites, between plus 150 to plus 155, that number on Arizona. 8 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. Set my money line on the Braves at a minus 159. Now, if you're looking at the run line, anything north of plus 125 will be a buy point for me. As per usual, I'm doing this with the FanDuel openers, and right now I am seeing a run line price that is more in that neighborhood of a plus 120. So if we could get closer to that, like plus 125, plus 130 number, I would be willing to dive in there. And I do think that when it's all said and done, I should be able to get pretty close for Merrill Kelly. It's been a case where his home and road splits have been very demonstrative over the last few years. As a matter of fact, you take a look at the entire career of Merrill Kelly, and he has been a completely different pitcher when he has been away from Arizona, which is very ironic because Arizona typically not necessarily a pitcher's best friend, but he's got a 3.24 career home ERA. At home, he's been able to do a nice job of being able to mitigate the deep ball as he's giving up right around about 1 to 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. That shoots up to darn near 1.4 to 1.5 home runs per 9 innings with a 4.44 ERA away from home. And for the Atlanta Braves, you've got the sticks really working for this team as you've had Ronald Acuna Jr. come back from injury, and he in his first 7 games was able to hit a trio of bombs. He's giving you darn near 400 on base, so that's something that you do like to see. Matt Olson has been able to give you 12 home runs. It's been a little bit cold over the last few days, but still give you about a 333 on base. Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, 10 home runs apiece, and for Ozuna, a 425 on base. He has really been good the last 2 seasons, and even the bottom of the fold, giving you a little bit more. Nick Allen, Eli White starting to regress a little bit, but both of these guys in between about a 240 to 245. Sean Murphy, when he's been out there because he's dealt with injuries all season long, has been a good power bat. 9 home runs in his first 120 or so at-bats of the season, and this is a Braves bullpen that is hovering right around league average, if not a little bit better. You've got Dasbell Hernandez, who's been able to give you sub-3 ERA. You've had Dylan Lee step up with about a 250 in terms of that ERA. Angel De Los Santos has been looking a little bit better. The big issue for this team is Rafael Iglesias at the closer's role has been terrible. He's posting up north of a 4.54 ERA, so that's not been tremendous to say the least. But Chris Sale, it seems like he's really rounding into form. I figured that there was going to be a little bit of positivity with him. He's not quite as supreme as he was when he won the Cy Young last season, but I mean, this is still no joke, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. 3.06 ERA, feeling dependent of a 2.99, 11.5 strikeouts to 2.5 walks per 9 innings. He's allowing less than a home run per 9 innings, and he has given up a grand total of 4 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, this is a top 4 team in terms of run production ever since the beginning of the 2024 season. Corbin Carroll and Eugenio Suarez have both been able to give you 16 plus bombs this season. For Suarez, not doing the world's greatest job in terms of averaging about a 230. Carroll hitting for more of a 330 on base, but you've got Josh Naylor giving you that 355 on base. Geraldo Perdomo is moving the line, giving you about a 380 on base. Pavin Smith nearly a 400 on base, along Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, who is with a little bit of injury as well. But for the Diamondbacks, bottom 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA, as you've got AJ Pucksaw the fold, that is really killing this team. They are getting back Justin Martinez. He's able to do a nice job holding down the fort. And then Jalen Beeks is a relatively good long guy along Shelby Bauer. Both of these guys, a sub-3.5 ERA, and in case of Miller, more of a 2 ERA. Getting back Kendall Graveman should be able to help them out a little bit as well. But when it's all said and done, I do think that the Atlanta Braves should have have the upper hand here. Like I said, if we can get to about a plus 126 with regards to that run line, I'd be willing to take a shot there. And I did set my total at 8.3 because, again, Merrill Kelly does give up quite a few runs on the road, and the Braves starting around into form with regards to that offense. So looking at that 8 over, and most likely a Braves run line. 959, 960 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants play FC Slam Diego Padres. Nick Pivetta is on the bump for the Padres, and Kyle Harrison is on the bump for the Giants. Giants are anywhere between minus 110 to minus 101. Meanwhile, for the San Diego Padres, you're going to be finding them as bad as minus 114, as good as minus 105. So relative pick'em game, 7.5 is the total. Unders between minus 115 to minus 120. Overs between even to minus 105. And did make my total 7.6. I'm going to be looking at the over. And I do like the Giants here. I set them at a minus 104 for Kyle Harrison. He still leaves a little bit of something to be desired, but he's a young gun that I think is going to be able to provide really good swing and miss stuff throughout his career. Thus far this season, he's been up to about 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, it's been wild. It's been 3.8 walks per 9 innings, 251 ERA, 391 fielding dependent. So he does need to really shape up with regards to being able to go deeper into games, as he had to go north of 5 innings thus far this season. But when it's all said and done, I do think that he's going to be able to give you quite a bit. And for Nick Pivetta, just getting away from Boston is big, because he was always getting tattooed in Boston. His home and road splits were pretty demonstrative, and he's been able to show thus far this season that being able to be in a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark that helps out with regards to these fly ball pitchers like he sort of is. That's been massive. 274 ERA, 296 fielding dependent, and even though he's not in San Diego, you know what? San Francisco's still a nice pitcher's best friend there. 10.3 strikeouts and 2.6 walks per 9 innings. So love what he's been able to do, and both of these bullpens have been really good, with the San Francisco Giants being the slight favorite in this game just because they are the number one team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen here. All these guys have come in and they've been able to hold down the fort. Randy Rodriguez, Tristan Beck, Eric Miller, the rebirth of Camilo Duvall, all these guys, a sub-2 ERA. Ada Birdsong was rock solid in the bullpen. They've had to utilize him as a starter, but Spencer Bivens is able to give you a little bit of a long roll as well. And then for the San Diego Padres, Adrian Morejon has been rock solid for the team. He's posting up an ERA that's hovering right around 3. Robert Suarez is a good closer for the team, as he's been able to spy you with a sub-2 ERA. Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam, they're good setup men. And for the Padres, you do have a pair of guys that are really taking you yard. Fernando Tatis Jr., Kevin Sheets, both with a double-figure amount of bombs. Both of these guys right around about a 265. Luis Reyes consistently moves the line. He and Manny Machado both hitting above a 285. For Machado, down in terms of a power perspective, just 7 home runs. That's down from what you typically expect there, but has been able to give you about a 367 on base. Jake Cronenworth is giving you about a 370 on base. Jackson Merrill's been hitting above 300 as well. So, like what these guys have been able to bring to the table. And for the San Diego Padres, I do think that they are going to be able to do a little bit of damage on Harrison. But again, with the Giants, I do think that this lineup is going to be able to get a little bit more out of Willy Adames, because they can't get much less out of him. It's been a rough season for him, but you do have a trio of different guys. They'll be able to give you 10 home runs this season. Eloy Ramos, Matt Chapman, Wilmer Flores, and in the case of Ramos and Chapman, both with a north of 350 on base. Mike Yastrzemski is providing 335 on base. So the guys at the bottom full: Lamont Wade Jr., Patrick Bailey, Luis Matos sitting below the Mendoza 200. That's been rough, but Tyler Fitzgerald is coming back off of injury to be able to help out this team as well. So at a minus 104 or better, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Giants money line, and at the 7.5, I like the overs. 961, 962 on the betting board. The New York Mets are on the road facing off against the LA Dodgers. Tony Gonsolin is on the bump for the Dodgers, and Finn Canning is on the bump for the Mets, and the Mets do find themselves as a pretty good-sized underdog of anywhere between plus 124 to a plus 130. Meanwhile, minus 139 to minus 145, seeing as high as minus 148. That number on the Dodgers. 9.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And for the Mets, I did set them at a plus 127. So being able to get plus 128, plus 130, I'm going to be able to take a shot on that money line. I just really have liked what I've seen out of Griffin Canning this year. Now, I do fear a little bit of regression because we've seen his work with the LA Angels, but I mean, still, 8.5 strikeouts, 4 walks per 9 innings, 323 ERA. The fielding independence is closer to a 4, but he's doing a good job of mitigating hard contact. He's only allowing home run per 9 innings. A little bit concerning that he did have a combined 8 walks in his last 2 starts that knocked him out of those 2 starts very early, including that start against the LA Dodgers where he went 2 2/3 innings. So that is a concern for him. But on the flip side, you've got a guy in Gonsolin that I just have never really had any faith in whatsoever. His swing and miss stuff is way up. He's getting you a little bit north of 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's at 4.5 walks per 9 innings, 523 ERA, 601 fielding independent, as he has given up 4+ runs in each out of his last 3 starts. This dude was doing for regression for years. years, and now the regression monster is hungry, and he's eating them whole. And for the New York Mets, you do have a lineup that has been, shall we say, a little bit hit or miss throughout the season, but you know what you're going to be able to get in terms of your two steady Eddies, in my opinion. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso. Combined 26 home runs entering into yesterday. Both of these guys hitting at 285, and in the case of Alonso, 385 on base. Juan Soto getting those pair of bombs against the Rockies, I think, is going to straighten them out. Still 360 on base, even though he's been a bit disappointing this year. And then got the likes of Tyrone Taylor, Brandon Nimmo, Mark Vientos, hitting between about a 230 to a 240. I haven't necessarily gotten a lot of power out of Vientos, but Nimmo is giving you 9 home runs. Luan Acuna has given you no power whatsoever, but he's a nice base stealer. He's able to move the line a little bit. And for the Mets, the team is number 2 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Had Reed Garrett along with Oscar Bozobin give you a sub 150 ERA. Having AJ Minter in and out of the fold all season long has been hurting the team, but Edwin Diaz is coming into his own, looking like the closer that we all know and love. They've been able to have some of these longer guys like a Max Kranick also give you some good innings. And for the LA Dodgers, they've really had to mix and match with this bullpen, as Blake Treinen is currently on the injured list. You haven't seen Bruce Arter all season long. Michael Kopech has been out, so that has caused for a lot of mixing and shaking. At Kirby Yates is right now out, and Tanner Scott has not been good thus far this season. He has been posting up an ERA well north of 4. Jack Dreher, Ben Casparis are a pair of guys that are able to give you some long innings, and both of these guys supplying a sub 3 ERA, so they've been pretty rock solid there. Alex Vesey has been able to do an okay job in this bullpen. They're kicking the tires on Lou Trevino right now. That's honestly amazing, but what is amazing is this SR lineup of the Dodgers. Right now, leading the National League in terms of runs per game at home with Shohei Ohtani, 23 bombs with 385 on base. Now, Mookie Betts is dealing with a little bit of ailment. That's something that you want to note, but Freddie Freeman, 435 on base. You've had Teoscar Hernandez along with Freeman, both give you between 9 and 10 home runs apiece. Andy Paz, he's up to a double-figure amount of bombs. He's hitting at 280, so I mean, these guys are all rock solid. Will Smith, 440 on base, so I do think that you're going to get a pretty high-scoring game. I did set my total 9.1 because I do think that for Gonsolin, he's going to round into form a little bit more, and I really do like this Mets bullpen. I do think that they're going to do a nice job holding down the fort, so set my total 9.1 at the 9.5. I like the under, and for the Mets, going to be on them on the money line. 963, 964 on the betting board. The Boston Red Sox play LC LA Angels. Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Alos, and Lucas Giolito is on the bump for Boston. Boston is a minus 123 to a minus 130 favorite, plus 110 to a plus 115 is that number on the Halos. 9.5 to 10 is the total on the 10. Over and under, both are minus 110. On the 9.5, over is minus 125, and the under is plus 105, and I did set my total at 9.2. I recognize that Boston plays relatively small, and you can get a lot of yard balls here in the summer, but I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. And for Jose Soriano, he's actually been a whole heck of a lot better when he has been on the road rather than at home. He's got some of the most demonstrative home and road splits that you're going to find in all of baseball. For Soriano, he does very much pride himself on keeping the ball in the yard. He's given up less than a home run per 9 innings, but for Soriano, he has a 5.92 ERA at home, and at home, 3 home runs allowed in 24 and a third innings. No home runs allowed in 44 and a third innings away from home, and a 2.03 ERA. So he has been much better when he's been away from Los Angeles. Now, do I think that there might be a little bit of regression with that? Yeah, 3.41 ERA, 3.75 fielding independent, 6.5 strikeouts, 4.5 walks per 9 innings. So he's giving up a lot of general contact. And then you take a look at Lucas Giolito, 4.678 ERA. He's looked a little bit better recently. Now, he's been all or nothing because in his last 5 starts, he has given up 6-1, 6-0, and 1 runs. So he has either been a human piñata or he's been unhittable. There's been no in-between with him. But that said, he's right now giving you only about 2.8 walks per 9 innings. The command has been much better this year. Swing and miss stuff is way down. Only about 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4.78 ERA, 4.42 fielding independence. So very interesting circumstance here. And he faces off against an LA Angels lineup that has been very all or nothing this year, because for the LA Angels, they're actually a top 2 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs per game away from home. And now you've got Mike Trout back in the fold. Trout is actually not in for any average whatsoever, but you know what? He's up to 10 home runs this far this season, and he's working his way back. Ever since getting off the injured list, he's been hitting for a lot more average. You got Zach Neto up to 10 bombs, give you about a 270 average. Logan Oppie, 14 bombs, he's giving you about a 250 average. And then Taylor Ward, 16 home runs, but a 271 on base. And then you got someone like a Kyron Paris, who's been giving you 6 home runs. It's been hot and cold for him. I believe that they sent him back down to the minor league level. Joe Adell, he's up to 9 home runs, but again, hitting for about a 215. So it is an all or nothing lineup. They're one of the worst in terms of batting average in the league. And the Angels bullpen, to their credit, they've been a little bit better recently, but still in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Hunter Strickland, Robert Stevenson have been able to give them some solid innings, and Jake Eater in 5 1/3 innings has a sub 350 ERA. These are the only guys that have a sub 475 ERA. Kenley Jansen's been rough. Ryan Zefrian is regressing. Garrett McDaniels is now on the injured list. Reed Detmers has been terrible. Jose Fermin is injured, and he's been terrible as well. So you just go down the list, and it's been all sorts of not good. And for the Boston Red Sox, I'm not saying that this is the supreme bullpen of the league or anything like that, but you've got a pair of guys in Brendan Bernardino, along with Aroldis Chapman, who have been able to supply a sub-2 ERA. Greg Weissert has been able to hold down the fort. He and Justin Wilson, sub-3 ERA as well. Justin Slayton, after a rough start to the season, has actually been a little bit better, and Garrett Whitlock is able to give you multiple innings as well. So it's an interesting scenario here. I do think that for the Red Sox, you're going to get a little bit more out of this offense moving forward. If you look at them overall for the season, they've been a top 6 team in terms of runs per game at home. Now, without Alex Bregman, it's been pretty rough for them, but even game 1 of this series, they put up enough runs to be able to win. It was just a case where Richard Dick Fitz was not good. You've got Rafael Devers, Wilder Abreu with combined 25 home runs, and Devers up to a 400 on base, so that's been nice for the team. Jarren Duran, he's been able to pick it up a little bit. He's now hitting for about a 270. You've been able to have a few guys be able to mix and match, find a way to be able to get on base, like Ceddanne Rafael is starting to give you a little bit more. Carlos Narvaez, I think about a 285, but it has been a interesting case with all the injuries. And Trevor Story, hitting for a 220. I recognize that he had a game over the weekend where he had all the RBI against the Atlanta Braves, but he has been brutal. That said, I did set my money line at a minus 146, so I'm going to be willing to roll with Red Sox, and maybe my total 9.2, so you're at the 9.5, plus I'm in on the under. 965, 966 on the betting board. The New York Yankees play us the Cleveland Guardians, as it is a Luis Ortiz on the bump for Cleveland. Clark Schmidt is on the bump for the Yankees. Yankees are between minus 175 to minus 185 favorites, and between plus 154 to plus 162 is that number on Cleveland. 8.5 to 9 is the total on the 9. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105 on the 8.5. The over is minus 130, and the under is plus 110. And for Cleveland, I set them at a plus 177 here. I was willing to go to a minus 177 with regards to that money line. Again, doing this with the old unreliable FanDuel openers on the run line, but right now you're finding that run line price of a plus 105 on the Yankees. I need at least a plus 112, but with the way that this money line is situated, I think we should be able to get there. So I think when it's all said and done, I should be able to get a nice Yankees run line. As for Luis Ortiz, his swing and miss stuff has actually been quite good this season, but he has been a little bit of a Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn sort of guy, and with him pitching in Cleveland, I think that that's a very nice reference, because he's been giving up 4.6 walks per 9 innings with about 9.7 strikeouts per 9. 4.40 ERA, 3.97 fielding independent. Now, for Ortiz, 3 earned runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 4 starts, and it's been against some relatively solid competition, but I still do have some question marks going up against the Yankees team that is currently numero uno in the American League in terms of run production. As for Aaron Judge, what we are seeing out of him is historic. He is right now on pace for north of 54 home runs. He is currently giving you a 485 on base. This guy has been amazing, but it's not just him. Paul Goldschmidt, even though he's down with his power, he's giving you 390 on base. Ben Rice, Trent Grisham, 12 to 13 home runs apiece, both hitting about a 250, between a 340 to a 350 on base out of both of those guys. Yasson Dominguez is giving you about a 350 on base as well. So, this entire lineup, other than really Anthony Volpe, has been able to step up. And then for the Yankees, it's been a little bit testy with regards to the bullpen, as right now you're dealing with the injury to the main closer in Luke Weaver. You're looking at a guy in Mr. Devin Williams, who's not been great to say the least. He was better in the month of May, though. For Devin Williams, still north of 6 ERA, but he's rounding into form, and I do think that he's going to find it sooner rather than later. But Ian Hamilton has been a disaster for the team with north of a 4.5 ERA. Mark Leiter Jr. has been hit or miss, so that is something to take caution of. But after the Cleveland Guardians were number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA last season, massive regression for them. Emmanuel Clase has looked a little bit better recently, but he's still rocking an ERA that's right around a 4, and it's taken a lot of work for him to get below a 4 ERA, but that's at Hunter Gaddis, sub 150 ERA. He's been really good for the team. Kate Smith has been pretty rock solid as well, but then you've got the likes of Tim Herron, Jacob Junis, Matthew Festa, these guys hovering just above a 4 ERA, so that's been a bit of an issue. And for the Cleveland Guardians, the biggest issue that you've got with this team, it's just a very top-heavy lineup, as you've got Jose Ramirez, 11 bombs, 380 on base, Steven Kwan is sitting above a 300, and then Carlos Santana is up to a 370 on base, so that's rock solid. Kyle Manzardo, 10 home runs, but hitting for no average whatsoever, and then these guys at the bottom of the lineup have all been rough. And to send Brian Rocchio to the minor league level because he was so sad and pathetic. John Kenzie Noel, Bo Naylor, Austin Hedges, whenever he gets an opportunity. All these guys hitting below the Bedell's 200 has been very much less than savory, and just don't have any of that with the New York Yankees. And for Clark Schmidt, he's a very league average pitcher. I think it's the best way of putting it. Like, his career numbers are exactly what you'd expect from a league average pitcher. For Clark Schmidt, he's right now giving you a 3.95 ERA. He's giving up 1 home run, 4 walks per 9 innings, 8.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. Career ERA, 3.95, 1.1 3.1 home runs, 3.2 walks, 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's not great, he's not terrible, but I think that that's enough to be able to get the job done in this case. I did set my total at a 9.2, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on this over, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Yankees at a plus 112 or higher on this run line. 967, 968 on the betting board. It is the Tampa Bay Rays, and they're going to be playing us the Walker Texas Rangers, as it is the Boz, Shane Boz, on the bump for the Rays, and Kumar Rocker is going to be going for the Rangers. Right now, the lone initial opener I'm seeing is at FanDuel. It's a lot of places. Did not know if Rocker was going to be going or not, but right now, minus 126 is that number on the Rays, plus 108 on the Rangers, and 9 is the total. Over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. I set the Tampa Bay Rays here to minus 156, so I am very much in on the money line. Like, with Kumar Rocker, I have absolutely no faith in this guy whatsoever. Like, when he was coming out of Vanderbilt, you knew that the raw stuff was there, but you also knew that it needed some refinement, and that refinement just has not come. He was able to do a nice job of getting you swings and misses in his small sample size last season, but prior to going on the injured list, that swing and miss stuff had eroded. Granted, the command was much better, but he was almost too good of command, as he was giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, and this is going to be a first appearance since late April, coming off the injured list, and not great to say the least, and he is backed up by a bullpen that, I mean, it's neither here nor there. The Texas Rangers aren't like a bunch of complete pushovers in the bullpen, but they're leaving something to be desired. I love Caleb Belchley. I went to high school with him. I'm a year older than him, so truth be told there, but he's rocking a 5 ERA, so we have to call it what it is. The numbers are the numbers, and you've got Jacob Latz, who's been a little bit hit or miss as a long guy. Sean Armstrong is giving you an ERA that's hovering right around about 4. Chris Martin has been really good in this bullpen, but now he's banged up. Hobie Milner has been pretty good along with Robert Garcia, both giving you a sub 225 ERA, but and it's very milquetoast. And for the Rangers, can someone step up with their bat, not named Wyatt Langford? Langford, 11 home runs. The 315 on base is starting to go downward a little bit, and you've had guys move the line. Josh Smith, Josh Young are both hitting above a 265, and in the case of Young, he's been able to give you 7 home runs, but Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien, Jake Berger, Jack Peterson, all these guys are hitting a 215 or lower. All these guys give you a 291 on base or lower. All these guys 7 home runs or less. Just big fat disappointments across the board. Corey Seager is coming back. He's been able to give you about a 275 with 6 home runs and about 120 at-bats, but Kyle Gashioka is not giving you too much. They had the DFA Leody Taveras, who's now on the Seattle Mariners, so yeah, it's not been great to say the least there. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, I mean, all of a sudden they're about a league average team in terms of run production. Not saying that they're going to be like the 32 Yankees or anything like that, but you know what? Junior Camanero's give you 13 home runs. He's been able to supply you with about a 260 average, really no on base whatsoever. Brandon Lau has been able to give you 11 bombs. He's starting to round into form as well. Yandy Diaz is having a rough season, 280 on base. You need a little bit more there, but Jose Cabrera, 19 stolen bases. Chandler Simpson, 19 stolen bases, and both of these guys are giving you north of a 315 on base. Taylor Walls hitting above the Mendoza line of 200, and really all the catchers, Danny Jansen, Ben Rofit, these guys have been absolutely terrible, but now you're getting Jake Magnum off the injured list that's hitting above a 300 as well. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, once again, a team that's in the top 5 with regards to their bullpen ERA. So many guys are able to make some match with, as Pete Fairbanks is a really good closer for the team. You've got Garen Clevenger, Manuel Rodriguez. These guys have been able to give you a sub 275 ERA. Hunter Biggie being on the injured list has hurt the team a little bit, but Cole Sulzer has held down the fort in the meantime. So I do think that the Rays should be a sizable favorite. I'm willing to go up to a minus 155 on that money line, even with Shane Boz being, shall we say, a little bit suspect for the Tampa Bay Rays. I do think that he's going to round into form a little bit more here against this Rangers lineup that has been sad and deplorable. But for the Boz, 4.92 ERA, I think that he's better than what he's shown. He's got a 5.08 fielding dependent, giving up 1.8 home runs, 3.3 walks per 9 innings, but it's coming off of a pair of starts where he gave up 300 runs or fewer, so has been rounded into a little bit more form, and this is a game out there in the outdoors in the state of Florida, so ball's going to be flying a little bit more. Set my total at a 9.1, so at the 9, I like the over, and I do like the Rays on the money line. 969, 970 on the betting board. It is the Detroit Tigers, and they hit the road. They're facing off against the Chicago White Sox. Sean Burke is going to be getting the start for the White Sox, and old to be determined is on the bump for the Tigers, so that's why this game is off the board. Right now, CBS Sports is projecting Sawyer Gipson-Long, who I was thinking was going to be going yesterday because you knew that it was going to be Gipson-Long for one game and then a bullpen game for another. They decided to go with the bullpen game on Tuesday. They're going to be going with Gipson-Long in this one, so if it being most likely Gipson-Long, I'm going to be willing to go up to a minus 185 on the Tigers money line. Minus 115 or better will be willing to lay the run line. Need at least plus 187 to take shot on the White Sox, and then set a total of an 8.3, 8 or less. I'm going to be in on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under. Now, I don't think that Gibson Long, if he does get the start, and if he doesn't, you're probably going to be having another bullpen madness game, and that wouldn't change the handicap too much on this one, but if you do get Gibson Long, he's probably going to be not giving you a whole heck of a lot of length, and his minor league rehab appearances has not been going overly long, but this is a man that, when he got a chance at the big league level for 4 starts in the 2023 campaign, 11.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He really showed well in that small sample size. Now, he has made 5 appearances at the AA and AAA level. He's only won 16 and a third innings, which is why I'm saying you might not see a ton out of him. The swing of his stuff has been down, only about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings in the small sample size, but he's also been able to control the command, only giving up about 1 walk per 9 innings. I've liked what I've seen of him, so I do think that he's going to be able to go out there, give you a relatively rock-solid performance. Again, if it's not Gibson Long, probably going to be a relatively similar handicap. Meanwhile, for Sean Burke, starting to really round into his own for the White Sox. He was really going through it in like the month of late April, but the guy's now giving up 200 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. He's been a very feast or famine pitcher, but a 4.20 ERA, not getting a lot of swings and misses, 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.4 home runs, 4.7 walks per 9 innings, 528 fielding independent, so you do have to fear that there's going to be a lot of regression here, and he is backed up by a bullpen that has been not great, to say the least, for the Chicago White Sox, by far a bottom 10 team with regards to bullpen ERA. You've actually had Mike Vasil be a really good long guy for this team. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Stephen Wilson has been able to give you some good innings as well, but Tyler Gilbert has landed on the injured list, and then you got Jared Schuster, Cam Bouger, Bryce Wilson, all posting up north of 5 ERA. Good news is Bryce Wilson absolutely ate it on Monday, so you're not going to be seeing him, but Miguel Castro has not been great. Ben Murphy, when he's gotten innings, has been terrible. Mike Clevenger, they tried him out. They had to send him down to the minor leagues. They have not found anything in this bullpen, and for the Detroit Tigers, this continues to be a top 5 team with regards to bullpen ERA. They had to mix and match yesterday, and they had to give a lot of guys an opportunity, but that said, you've got all these guys posting up a sub-3 ERA in terms of Will Vest, Chase Lee, Tommy Kahnle, Brant Herter, who you're able to utilize him as a pretty good long guy. Brendan Hennefy has been able to do a nice job with the 3.25 ERA. And for the Detroit Tigers, all of a sudden, this is a top 4 team in the American League in terms of run production, as you've got a trio of different guys who will be able to give you 10 plus home runs. Gary Carpenter, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, all between 13 and 14 home runs, with Carpenter having that massive performance on Monday. For Carpenter, Green, both hitting above a 270. Meanwhile, Torkelson, the best on base of the 3, at a 346 on base. Zach McKinstry's moved line with a 350 on base. You've had the likes of Dylan Dingler, Gleyber Torres, Javi Baez, all at least a 270, and these guys have functional power, 5 to 6 home runs apiece. Cole Keith is starting to be able to get on base as well. And for the Chicago White Sox, the offense is a little bit better with the fact that you've got Mike Tauchman and Andrew Benintendi off the injured list. And Benintendi, 6 home runs, a 315 on base this season. Miguel Vargas is starting to give you something, 8 home runs, about a 350 on base, but my goodness, Luis Robert went down the toilet bowl. I recognize that he's got the 21 stolen bases, but 266 on base with 5 home runs. You just need to be getting more out of him. You've got Brooks Baldwin, who hasn't been able to give you a good plate approach, 257 on base. Chase Meredith has actually been able to give you about a 290 average, so that's been great. But Michael A. Taylor, Joshua Palacios, Josh Rojas, Jacob Amaya, so many guys hitting at 215 or lower. So I do think that for the Detroit Tigers, they should be a nice firm favorite here. I'll be willing to go up to a minus 115 on their run line, plus 187 or higher. Looking at the White Sox, and then Interless looking at the over 8.5 or higher. The under 971, 972 on the betting board. You've got the Baltimore Orioles, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the Seattle Mariners, as Emerson Hancock is on the bump for Seattle, and Gate Bovich is on the bump for Baltimore. Baltimore is a plus 114 to a plus 123 underdog. Minus 128 to minus 135. Then around Seattle, 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8.5 under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. On the 8, over is between minus 125 to a minus 130. Under is between plus 105 to a plus 110. I did set my total here at an 8.3, so at an 8.5, I'm going to be looking at the under, and we're going to be probably seeing a lot of 8.5s when it's all said and done. But for Emerson Hancock, I did set him at a minus 164 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it. Now, Emerson Hancock has some pretty disastrous numbers this year, but they've all been warped by a few bad starts. He's actually got a 5.64 ERA, but in 7 out of his 9 starts, he has given up 3 earned runs or fewer. I recognize that the fielding independent is still a little bit north of 5. He's giving up darn near a home run half per 9 innings, and not a swing and miss guy. Less than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he should be able to hold down the 40 ERA. It's not like Gabe Povich has been anything special. How about a 5.29 ERA? Fielding independent, that's a little bit lower, but 1.6 home runs, 3.5 walks per 9 innings. Not necessarily a swing and miss, just artist. Not bad, but not great. And he's backed up by a bullpen that's currently 27th in the big leagues in terms of their ERA at a 5.32, as Brian Baker has actually been able to give you some rock-solid innings, and you've been having Felix Bautista have his issues, but he's still better than a lot of the other relievers that you're going to find, because you've seen Yunier Cano regress. He's posting up north of a 4 ERA. You've gotten a big nothing burger out of so many of these shorter guys, like Cionel Perez is currently not with the team, and rightfully so. He was posting up nearly 8 ERAs, or Anthony Dominguez has posted up a 5 ERA. Gregory Soto's a disaster, and for the Baltimore Orioles, they're also a bottom 10 team in the big leagues with regards to runs per game, and their top home run hitter, Cedric Mullins, is currently on the injured list. Not great. You've got Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, give you 7 home runs apiece. Both of these guys are 320 on base, so that's been solid, but Adley Rutschman continues to hit 200. That's not good. Heston Kjerstad is sitting below the middle sign of 200. You've had Jordan Westberg out of the lineup all season long. Ramon Laureano, about 320 on base. He's been able to give you a few okay at-bats, and Ryan O'Hearn, north of 400 on base, 9 home runs. You do like to see that, but been a lot of rough for this team. And then on the flip side, you've got a bunch of these Seattle Mariners that has been a top 10 team with regards to their run creation, and you've got a Seattle Mariners bunch that's currently just being carried by Cal Raleigh. 23 home runs at a 380 on base. Julio Rodriguez is starting to pick it up. He and Ore Polanco have been able to give you 10 home runs apiece. Polanco is starting to regress. He had a relatively rough final few weeks of the month of May, but Rodriguez, after a slow start, as he always does, he starts to pick it up. Dylan Moore is giving you more. He and Rowdy Tellez, 8 home runs apiece. Tellez not doing a good job of getting on base, but Dylan Moore is able to give you about a 320 on base. JP Crawford is moving the line with a 390 on base, and this has been a Seattle Mariners bullpen that they really had a rough go of it in that series against the Minnesota Twins, but past that, they've been one of the better bullpens you can find in all baseball. Andres Munoz right now posting up a sub-2 ERA. Gabe Spires right around about a 2 as well. Carlos Vargas has been rock solid. Now, Colin Snyder is starting to go down the toilet bowl. He, Casey Lugumina, both north of 4.5 ERA, but Matt Brashton's coming off the injured list, has not given up a single run, so I do think that for the Mariners, they do find a way to be able to get the job done. Brian Hancock at an 8.5. I like the under, and I do like the Mariners on the money line. Set them at a minus 164. 973, 974 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins are going to be on the road facing off against the Athletics, as we do know that it's going to be Zebby Matthews who's going to be on the bump for the Twins, and right now it's all to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the Athletics. That's why this game is off the board, but it's looking like Jeffrey Springs is probably going to get that opportunity, and if it is Jeffrey Springs, I'd be saying the Athletics at a plus 126, so I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 125 with the Twins, plus 127 or higher, looking at the A's, and then set a total 10.7, 10.5 or less, looking at the over a 11 or higher to the under. Now, if it's on him, if it's someone like Jacob Lopez who was supposed to go on Tuesday, if he decides to just not go in general, if you have something in general a little bit different, probably going to be saying this more around about a minus 140, minus 145 with the Twins. If you call up some sort of a young gun, something like that, as the Athletics just don't have any pitching right now. They are dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. All these pitchers have such demonstrative home and road splits. Nobody can pitch in Sacramento right now. That's why darn near 2/3 of these games are going over the total. Like, you just take a look at this bullpen of the team. Tyler Ferguson and Hogan Harris are the only two guys that have seen north of 5 innings that have a sub-4 ERA. Mitch Spence is going down the toilet bowl. Grant Holman is posting up a 5 ERA. TJ McFarland, when he's not been injured, has been awful. So, I mean, it's been not great to say the least, and if you do get Jeffrey Springs out there, he's been having his issues in terms of being able to keep the ball in the yard, giving up north of 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, and again, it's a home and road splits with Jeffrey Springs, 588 home ERA, 386 ERA on the road. At home, he has been giving up north of 2 home runs per 9 innings, and swing and miss stuff has been down. He's only been able to give you about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is why if you don't get Jeffrey Springs, it's not going to be too much of an issue. It's going to be obviously rising up this price a little bit more, but I mean, this is a guy in Zebby Matthews head as well. He's got really good swing and miss stuff. He has no idea how to really hone it in, though, and that's a big issue for the team as well. As for Zebby Matthews, has made 3 starts, 6.43 ERA. Now, he's getting 13.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's why the fielding dependence is a 301, but he's also given up north of 3 walks per 9 innings. He's given up a pair of bombs as well. He's not going deep into these starts. He's only won 14 innings in these 3 starts, so that's a bit of a problem, and you do have a Minnesota Twins bullpen that, fortunately for them, it's one of the best that you're going to find in all of baseball. Yohan Rodon has been incredible, as he's been able to give you a sub 150 ERA. Danny Kloon being on the injured list has been hurting them a little bit because he has yet to give up an earned run all season long. Griffin Jackson's had a little bit of issue, but I mean, still, these guys like Justin Topa, Cole Sands being able to give you sub 3 ERA, that's been rock solid. Now, for the Minnesota Twins, this has been one of the lesser offenses out there in all of baseball. Byron Buxton is giving you 10 home runs, getting him off the injured list because he was, the concussion is big, but now you've got Harrison Bader moving the line, give you about a 360 on base. Ty France has been able to give you about a 330 on base. Trevor Larnach is hitting at 255 with 8 home runs. So these guys are starting to step up for the team. Cody Clemens, in a small sample size, 375 on base with 5 home runs. So you love that. And Royce Lewis just has not been able to give you anything thus far this season. And for the Athletics, you do have a pair of guys in Tyler Soderstrom along Brent Rooker, who have been able to do a nice job providing the power, combined 25 home runs, both about a 330 to a 335 on base. Lawrence Butler is starting to move the line as well, give you about a 330 on base, as month of May was very random for some of these guys. You had quite a few guys be able to rise up and fall down, like Shea Langolaris has been having a little bit of rough go of it. Overall for the season, 9 home runs, but in the month of May, he only was able to provide 4 bombs and less than a 300 on base, so need a little bit more there. And Nick Kurtz landing on the injured list hurts his team a little bit, but Jacob Olsen, this guy has just been absolutely incredible. He's starting to draw some walks. He's hitting for north of 350. I do think that for the Athletics, they're certainly going to be able to put up runs here, and if it is indeed Matthews against Springs, minus 125 would be my max light on the Twins, plus 127 or higher. Looking at the Athletics, and then 10.5 or less, looking at the over 11 hour, the under 975, 976 on the betting board. The Pittsburgh Pirates playoffs to the Houston Astros. Ryan Gusto is on the bump for the Astros, and Mike Burrows is on the bump for Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh does find themselves as the home underdog here. You're going to be getting them between plus 120 to a plus 125, minus 130 to minus 142 is that number on Gusto and Company. 9 is the total. Under is minus 110 to a minus 120. Over is between even a minus 110. And with the Astros, I did set them at a minus 124, being able to get a plus 125, which right now, we're right on that borderline, but when it's all said and done, I think we should get a plus 125 on the Buccos. So I'm going to be willing to take a shot there. I'm actually in on Mike Burrows. He's had a few rough starts to begin his MLB career, but you know what? I think that this is a guy that's going to be able to round into form. First 2 starts, he allowed a combined 9 runs, 8 of which were earned in 8 1/3 innings, but the minor league level was getting north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, holding it down with a sub-3 ERA. The 4.3 walks per 9 innings, very, very much not ideal. And what else was not ideal was taking on the Milwaukee Brewers in that first start as well. So that was a little bit less than amazing. Meanwhile, you've got a guy in Gusto who's been up, down, all around for the Astros, in which he has been a reliever, and then he got pushed to being a starter, and then he was back to being a reliever. So he's done a bit of everything. Right now, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's allowing 4.4 walks and 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. So 4.62 ERA, 4.46 fielding dependent. And for Gusto, it's been a little bit better ever since he got his last call to be able to start, as he had that 7th spot that he gave up against the Royals. But really, if you take that out of the fold, he honestly has not been that bad. You do have a Astros bullpen that does rank at the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. I do recognize that Brian King is starting to rise up a little bit with regards to his ERA, but then you've got Brian Abreu, Caleb Orr, Josh Hader. These guys give you a sub-3 ERA. You've had Steven Okert do a solid job as well, and then you've got a lineup that's starting to round into form as well. You've had Isaac Paredes supply the team with 11 home runs, about a 350 on base. Jeremy Pena, 370 on base. He and Jose Altuve are both up to 9 home runs apiece. Jake Myers is moving line with a 350 on base. Now, Yunier Diaz, 268 on base. This guy just doesn't draw any walks whatsoever, and Jordan Alvarez continues to be injured for this team, but I do look at the flip side for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I'm starting to see a little bit of positivity for them. They are right there with the Colorado Rockies at the bottom of the National League in terms of run creation, but Oneil Cruz, 12 bombs at about a 350 on base is solid. Now, you've only got 2 other guys that have north of 3 home runs. Andrew McCutchen, 370 on base, 5 home runs. Brian Reynolds, 7 home runs. He's starting to hit for a little bit more average, but yeah, it's been suspect for them. Joey Bart has been in and out of the lineup all season long. He and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, 350 on base, but for Bart not to necessarily giving you a lot of average, he's just been banged up all season long. And then you've got these guys that have been up and down with regards to the majors and the minors, like Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, Emmanuel Valdez, Andy Rodriguez, all these guys hitting a 210 or lower. Alexander Canario hasn't necessarily been able to give you too much. Tommy Pham is hitting a 210, and this is a Pirates bullpen that is in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. David Bednar just has been an inconsistent mess all season long. It's been a little bit better recently, but he, Ryan Baruchi, Jordan Wentz, all between about a 4 to a 4.70 ERA. You've had Tim Meza be able to give you a few okay innings, and Dennis Santana's actually been really good in this bullpen. Sub-2 ERA, but Justin Lawrence being on the injured list really hurts his team. But that said, I do think that for the Pirates, they're going to be able to get to Gusto. I think that Burrows rounds into form. So I did set my total here at an 8.4. So on the 9, I'm going to be able to take a shot on the under. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates at a plus 125 or higher, looking at their money line, 977, 978 on the card. You got the Philadelphia Phillies on the road against the Toronto Blue Jays. Jose Barrios is on the bump for the Jays, and Mick Abel is on the bump for the Phillies. Phillies are a minus 105 to a even money, sort of slight underdog, anywhere between minus 105 to minus 115. That number on the Jays, 9 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and set the Phillies on a minus 126. 147. I'm going to be trusting in Abel. I think that he is very able to give you a win because he was really good at the minor league level, a sub 230 ERA. Now, I recognize that his MLB debut was against Pittsburgh Pirates, but 6 scoreless innings against Pittsburgh Pirates looked really good with 9 punch-outs and 6 scoreless innings, so I like what I'm seeing there. And Jose Barrios, he's always been a better pitcher when he has been at home rather than on the road, except for this year. Jose Barrios has actually seen his home and road splits erode on him, as right now he's giving you the 3.86 ERA overall for the season, with 1.3 home runs, 3.6 walks allowed per 9 innings, about 8.5 punch-outs per 9, but that ERA actually shoots up to a 4.43 at home this season, so complete opposite, because typically he gives up about a 0.8 to a 0.9 difference with regards to ERA home and road. And for the Blue Jays, they have been able to round into form a little bit more with their offense entering into yesterday. They were coming off of that whiteout series against the Athletics, but you're just still not getting a lot of power out of these guys. You got a lot of guys that are stuck in that neighborhood of between 6 and 8 home runs this season, as Vlad Guerrero Jr. just has not been able to give you a lot of power. He's been able to do a nice job of being able to move the line, still give you that north of 370 on base, and then you've got Dalton Varsho, George Springer tied with Guerrero with 8 home runs, and to the credit of George Springer, about a 370 on base out of him as well. Bo Bichette is up to 7 bombs, hitting at 275. Nathan Lukes is hitting at 275 as well. So, I mean, these guys are getting on base, but they're just not giving you that power. So, you got a lot of men getting stranded on base for the Blue Jays. It's been a slightly above average bullpen in terms of ERA, despite the fact that Jeff Hoffman has been a complete disaster for the team. You've been able to get some nice mixing and matching with Brandon Little being able to give you a sub 2 ERA. Yimi Garcia's a little bit banged up right now, so that hurts you, but Mason Fluharty has been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Chad Green, it's been a little bit, shall we say, testy up and down as well. And then on the flip side, you do have a Philadelphia Phillies bullpen that has been an abject disaster. They're in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and right now your best reliever is currently dealing with a suspension in Jose Alvarado. Orion Kirkering has been able to give you a sub 3.2 ERA, and you've been able to get some good innings as well out of Tanner Banks recently. He and Matt Strom offer you between about a 3.65 to a 4 ERA, but Carlos Hernandez, Jordan Romano, these guys have been all sorts of awful. And for the Phillies, they are dealing with Bryce Harper, just trying to be able to reacclimate after you got the ball off the elbow. He's been missing the last few games, so that's been a bit of an issue because he and Kyle Schwarber are the only 2 guys on the roster with at least 6 home runs this season. Schwarber, 19 bombs, 400 on base, but again, you got a lot of guys that are getting on base with this Phillies team. Trey Turner down for what is hitting for about a 300. Nick Castellanos hitting a 280. Johan Rojas at the bottom of the fold. He's finding a way to be able to get on base, and I do think that the Phillies do slug their way to victory against a guy in Barrios who's been all sorts of inconsistent. I did set my total at 8.8, so here at the 9, I like the under, and I do like the Phillies on the money line, and we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The St. Louis Cardinals play us the Kansas City Royals, as you've got Noah Cameron, who's on the bump for the Royals, and Miles Michaelis is on the bump for St. Louis, and St. Louis is a favorite of anywhere between minus 125 to a minus 130. Plus 110 to plus 115 is that number on the Royals. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8. Over is minus 120, the under is even on the 8.5. Under is minus 120 and the over is even. Semi-total at an 8.6, especially if we can get an 8. I'm in on the over, as I think that both of these guys are doing for a lot of aggression, as Miles Michaelis has been walking on sunshine all season long, even though he gives up so much contact. And for Michaelis, the command has actually been much worse this season. Miles Michaelis up to 2.5 walks per 9 innings. That's on pace to be his most since 2014. 5.5 strikeouts per 9. That's one of his worst marks ever, but somehow, some way, he's given up 3 home runs at 55 in a third innings, 3.90 ERA. I mean, I don't know what sort of sorcery he's putting on teams to not allow them to go yard, but it's been working. And for Noah Cameron, he's got a 105 ERA in 4 starts, but he's getting 5.5 strikeouts at 3 walks per 9 innings. To his credit, he's only given up 2 home runs, but I just think that this is going to be a run that is going to be drying up now. For the Royals, this has been a really good bullpen, a top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA. Steven Cruz has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. You've got Lucas Ursach, Carlos Aceves in the 8th and 9th inning go a bit dominant. Heck, Daniel Lynch, when you've needed him in the bullpen, he has been amazing as well. What has not been amazing has been this Royals team that's currently in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Bobby Witt Jr. is starting to go down the toilet bowl a little bit. He's hitting for about a 285, which is fine. He's moving the line, but he's given you 6 home runs this far this season. You've got Miguel Garcia with 5 bombs. He's hitting above a 300. And then Vinny Pasquantino, he's up to 8 home runs, so he's been able to give you a little bit of something. These guys like Drew Waters and company, though, even though Waters is getting on base, hitting for north of 265, they're just really not giving you any sort of power whatsoever. Jonathan India has been a big, giant disappointment for the team this season. And with St. Louis Cardinals, this has been a pretty powerless team as well. They're in the bottom 10 in terms of home runs on a per at-bat and a per-game basis. You got Wilson Contreras, Mason Wynn, Ivan Herrera, Nolan Arenado, all between 5 and 6 home runs. And Herrera is hitting north of 300, and Wynn is hitting about a 275. Lars Nootbaar right now leading the way with 8 bombs, nearly about a 340 to a 350 on base. And to the credit of Brendan Donovan, he's hitting a 333, but I mean, it's been a St. Louis Cardinals team that they just haven't been able to get that deep ball, and they've been a bullpen that's been right around about league average all season long. You've been able to get some good innings out of Kyle Leahy, Phil Matone. These two guys have been able to give you a sub 3.3 ERA, and Ryan Elsley, I still believe, is one of the best closers in the big leagues. He's got an ERA that's hovering right around 3, but should be able to round to form a little bit more there. But I do think that for Miles Mikolas, his reign of terror is going to be coming to an end. I think that he gets hit hard, and I think the camera gets hit hard. So I did set this at a plus 115. I believe in the Royals a little bit more in that bullpen, so plus 115 or higher. Looking at the Royals money line, and do like the 8 to 8.5 over, and that'll wrap things up for the Wednesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Major Matt, aka Matt Joseph, for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters the name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm coming at you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the baseball season, so I will be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.